If you're 65 years old with $1.8 million saved and a monthly outflow of $8,000 per month, can you retire right now? The answer is not as simple as running a calculator. The real question is whether your money can last for 30 years while inflation eats away at your purchasing power. Taxes take their cut and the market throws a few curveballs your way. Let me show you exactly how this plays out. I'm Jason Solomon, and I've spent years helping retirees turn their savings into sustainable income without fear of running out. Today, I'm going to walk you through a real retirement scenario that looks safe on paper, but can fall apart if the strategy behind it is wrong. Retirement success is often shaped less by how much money you have and more by what happens in the first 5 years after the paycheck stops. Today, we're going to walk through the hidden withdrawal problem that catches retirees off guard, the Social Security decision that can either stabilize or strain your portfolio, and the tax issue that quietly grows larger every single year if you ignore it. All right. Meet Robert and Susan. Robert's 65, Susan is 63. They've saved $1.8 million. Situation looks pretty good, right? They've got $1.2 million in traditional IRAs and 401ks, $400,000 in a taxable brokerage account, and another $200,000 in Roth IRAs. They've got a simple goal: retire today and fund their $96,000 lifestyle. This looks easy on paper. Robert's Social Security is going to be about $2,800 a month, and Susan's is going to be around $1,900 a month. Together, that's roughly $56,000 per year in guaranteed income once both benefits begin. So most people do quick math and they assume the plan's rock solid. They look at the remaining gap and they think, well, that's no problem. At first, it doesn't seem like they've got a particularly aggressive withdrawal rate. But here's the first place retirement plans can start becoming vulnerable. Robert and Susan are not collecting those benefits yet, and that changes everything. For the next several years, every dollar comes directly from their portfolio. Every grocery bill, every vacation, every property tax payment, every healthcare expense, all of it. Once taxes get layered into those IRA withdrawals, their first-year portfolio withdrawals may be closer to $115,000. Suddenly, it no longer looks like a tiny withdrawal rate. Here's where the real danger begins. What happens if retirement starts at exactly the wrong time? The market falls 20% in year one and it doesn't recover for 2 years. Now they don't have $1.8 million anymore. Maybe they have $1.4 million. They're still withdrawing over $100,000 a year. That's where retirement pressure starts to become uncomfortable, and it's not something we've seen for quite some time. Withdrawals during a major downturn don't just temporarily hurt. The assets that you withdrew are no longer there to fully participate in the recovery. That's what's called sequence of returns risk. And for many retirees, it can become one of the biggest pressures on long-term portfolio sustainability. So if you're watching this and you're realizing you never actually stress tested your retirement against bad markets, especially in the first few years, you're not alone. This is exactly the kind of analysis that we can do with you. If you want to see how your own retirement plan holds up under different market and tax scenarios, I put a link in the description below to book a time with me. Here's where things get really interesting. The next risk is not the market, it's actually timing, specifically Social Security timing. This is where a lot of retirees accidentally increase pressure on their portfolio without realizing it. So many retirement calculators and planning models favor delaying benefits until they're 70. Mathematically, that might make sense because the monthly benefit gets bigger. Robert's benefit could go from $2,800 to $3,400 if he waited until 70. And that may sound awesome. What about the withdrawals that you're forced to take while you're waiting? In Robert and Susan's case, waiting until 70 could require hundreds of thousands of additional dollars coming out of the portfolio first. Not just with withdrawals, but it's lost growth. That money is no longer compounding. It's no longer available during market recoveries. And this is where their entire retirement conversation changes. The question isn't, how do I maximize my Social Security check? The real question is, which strategy creates the strongest overall retirement plan? So for some retirees, delaying benefits might make sense, but others, taking benefits early may reduce that pressure on your portfolio and improve the long-term flexibility. There's no universal answer, only math tied to your specific life expectancy, your tax picture, your portfolio structure, and your spending. Now we get to the risks that almost nobody sees coming until it's too late. Future tax exposure. Remember, most of Robert and Susan's wealth sits inside of a pre-tax retirement account. That means a significant portion of those assets are subject to future taxation. And right now, that future tax liability is growing bigger and bigger in the background. Once Social Security begins, portions of those benefits may become taxable depending on income. Later, required minimum distributions arrive whether you need the money or not. This is how retirees accidentally drift into higher effective tax rates later in life. They didn't spend recklessly. They didn't earn more. It's just the additional taxable income that they're forced to take. Strategic planning can become very important for people like Robert and Susan. They've got a small window of opportunity before required minimum distributions begin to try to make things better. That small window is where some of the most important retirement tax decisions happen. Strategic Roth conversions during low-income years can potentially reduce future RMD exposure. They can improve long-term tax flexibility and reduce how aggressively future withdrawals compound the tax problem later. But this opportunity window doesn't stay open forever. Once large RMDs begin, tax planning flexibility can become very limited. That's why retirement planning is not just about investments, it's about sequencing, timing, taxes, and adaptability. So what should people like Robert and Susan focus on? First, stop assuming the retirement calculator told you the full story. Second, stress test the first 5 years of retirement in a scenario that you don't like in the beginning, not just average returns over 30 years. Third, evaluate Social Security based on total plan outcomes, not just maximizing. Fourth, understand the future tax exposure inside pre-tax retirement accounts before required minimum distributions begin. And finally, build flexibility into your plan. Cash reserves, spending adjustments, withdrawal options, tax diversification. Flexibility is what allows retirement plans to survive real life. So can Robert and Susan retire at 65 with $1.8 million and spend $8,000 a month? Yeah, they probably can, but only if the strategy behind the portfolio is strong enough to survive bad timing, tax pressure, and difficult early market conditions. Without thoughtful planning, even large portfolios may face unexpected pressure over time. With planning, $1.8 million can potentially support decades of long-term retirement income needs. In the end, here's the real takeaway. The number itself is not what determines retirement success. It's the strategy behind the portfolio that often plays the role. Two retirees can have the exact same portfolio and experience completely different outcomes depending on how they handle withdrawals, how they handle taxes, how they handle Social Security, and the market risk that they've exposed themselves to in the early years. If you want to learn more about the kinds of retirement risks and planning strategies that we discussed today, I've included a link below where you can download my free retirement guide. If you want to build a plan to run your specific numbers and see exactly where you stand, book some time with me using the link below. Take care, and we'll see you in the next video.